First News with Keeler in the morning on WIBX and WIBX950.com.
Samantha Co is on, and I appreciate you coming out. It's been tough finding somebody to talk about this issue, Samantha.
Oh, my God. You guys must have missed me. I mean,
I know.
Yeah.
We've been on Sam Withdraw.
Been going on talking about these things, you know?
Well, what are you hearing on this? I mean, I know you're not on the council now. You are running. What are you hearing?
Well, here's the thing, and they actually posted an article back in February in regards to this art space project, and I think everybody goes back to the term of low-income housing, and they think of the worst, and and let's go back to it. Low-income housing is it shouldn't be called low-income housing. It should be called affordable housing, because I think that people have to understand of what it actually is. But my big issue, and before we actually get into this whole Stanley issue, I shouldn't say the Stanley issue, because it's really a downtown issue. It's not just their issue.
Lotus Garden, it's the whole shebang down there.
But if you think about what happens when you put any housing complex, is they apply for tax credits, okay? So say this project's going to cost $12 million. They'll apply for tax credits. Now let's paint the picture of putting, since we're talking about art space, let's paint the picture of putting $12 million back into a neighborhood. Now, what would it take for, say, the street next to me, after that, to start putting that $12 million back in the housing units that we already have? I mean, I hate the idea of the institutionalized look when it comes to the low-income housing. So why not take those tax credits and put it back into the community? To me, that would better serve its purpose and start making some of the houses affordable housing for people from the housing we already have.
Yeah, from the zombie properties or the blighted properties you see everywhere.
Right, that's what I'm saying. I mean, I hate the idea of putting $12 million into one property. I mean, it seems to me that $12 million could be fitted better into a community and rehabbing the housing units that we already have. I mean, I can't imagine not what that would start making neighborhoods look like. So that's my biggest issue when it comes to housing. And when we sat on several committees in regards to housing units, and we talked about what housing units should look like. I mean, and if you look at something like I can't remember what the housing project was that they did over in Cornhill.
Hope 6.
Hope 6. I mean, if you look at some of those houses, I mean, even that, I mean, they're gorgeous.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they take away institutionalized look.
Yeah, they look like condos.
I mean? So, they're gorgeous. I mean, and that's something that I see better fitted when it comes to utilizing those funds and tax credits. I mean, giving the people the opportunity to take care of a house, to take care of a condo, to better a neighborhood. Does that make sense?
It does, but at the same time, I think it's hard to avoid the issue of building a complex right next to your Stanley Theater,
on top of everything else.
So let's get back to that. So first of all, this project is insane. I mean, that's number one. I mean, first of all, to ever think that you could put an apartment complex, it's basically blocking an entire parking lot for everybody to go down to.
Right.
So would let's think about, and I was talking to a couple people that brought some of these ideas back to why this wouldn't work. Number one, if you put a building like that, first of all, where's Tallman's Tires going? That's what I want to know, because I mean, if you look at the picture that they put, it doesn't even look like Tallman's Tires is even there anymore. So that's number one. The rendering of the picture doesn't make sense to begin with, on top of the fact of putting that huge unit in between those two buildings, blocking a parking lot. I mean, I've worked at the Stanley when Jeff Daniels ran the concession stands.
Yeah.
I mean, and parking was a nightmare to begin with.
Yep.
With the parking spaces that they had available for a concert.
Yeah, with what's already there.
So, I mean, I can't imagine taking that building. I don't care if you're taking away 10 parking spots, 20 parking spots, 30 parking spots. Because where are the people that are living in that apartment going to park to?
Right.
I mean,
you'd have to have
parking there.
You're taking the parking spaces for the building. You're also taking the parking spaces for where the people are going to park. I mean, and Bernie hit it. I know Bernie, and he's a very good. He makes excellent points, and I saw a couple of the comments that he's made previously in regards to this art space apartment complex, I guess, if you want to call it, going in downtown. And I mean, look at right across the street. I mean, he has people with disabilities that can't even, park near the vicinity of the building that they live in.
Right.
So
right.
what adding another building, whatever 60 units that they're adding, how is that going to work? Where is 60? Not saying that all of them would drive vehicles, but I mean, even if it was half of them. So on top of the fact that the building's taking up 30 spaces and, an additional space for somebody that could park there, I mean, it's an actual nightmare, to be honest with you.
Who's heading up the project, and is this DRI money?
Yeah, well, first of all, they did apply for the DRI project back in 2019. So they were part of the DRI application, and I don't remember who was in charge of whoever's in charge of actual art space is the one that put in for that project. But here's the thing: the city owns the property, right? I think it's under the parking authority. If the city were to ever sell the property, why wouldn't they? If the Stanley is the greatest thing that's happened to downtown, which in my personal opinion it is, why wouldn't you afford the Stanley the opportunity to purchase that space if ever they were to need it for expansion or something that could better them? I mean, if you look
or for customers,
yeah,
right. Well, that's what I mean. I mean, and not for nothing. Like even and I say this just because I not only do I attend shows, but I also worked down there at the Stanley sometimes, and I would see like the amount of people that the Stanley would bring in. I mean, just on a show night, your Swifties, your Encore, everything was packed down there.
Yeah.
I mean, and the possibility of even expanding that even more. I mean, to me it just hinders any progress that
you're already trying to make down there. Yeah.
Right. That the future of the Stanley could already do.
So
now,
Sam, who's putting it in?
Before I forget.
Okay.
What happens when a tractor trailer pulls in? Because they would have tons of tractor trailers going in and out of that parking lot, dropping off equipment, dropping off this, dropping off that. I mean, if you're only going to have one point of ingress and egress with that building in front of it, blocking it, I mean, does that make any sense?
Right.
On top of the fact that they had this One World Garden down there, and I honestly I feel bad for Paula Horgan because she probably put about 2 to 3 years worth of work inside this project, and just the whole concept and the idea was to give people something to do if they were going to the Stanley when they're standing outside, and it was just the whole concept of what they were doing, and basically they just ripped that project. And I don't know if it was for this project specifically. But they just ripped that project away, right away and said, "Oh, well, you know what? It doesn't fit this space anymore. We're going to put it down there."
I know you have to go, and so do we. Is this a done deal?
According to what I heard from other council members, they said no because they still have to sell the property.
Yeah.
But I can't see how, being on the council when the Culverman Center property was going through, I can't imagine that, applying for DRI money and things like that, it's going to be. Yeah. I think it's going to be a little harder to stop. I mean, if they stop the sale, I don't see how they could, move forward with the project.
Who's got to approve it on the city level?
It would be the Common Council, the approval of the sale, because the city still owns the parking lot.
You know what I think we ought to do?
How is it they have not decided how to use the DRI money yet?
And who wants to? I know. And why is this a good use for it?
What I think they ought to do is put an asphalt plant in there. That would really...
Well, then you better hope I'm on the council because I was able to stop that one.
Right. Okay, Samantha, good luck. Thank you. We appreciate it. All right. Have a good day.
Art space.
Wow.
Art space.
This is the story of the one. As head of maintenance at a concert hall, he knows the show must always go on. That's why he works behind the scenes, ensuring every light is working, the HVAC is humming, and his facility shines. With Grainger's supplies and solutions for every challenge he faces, plus 24/7 customer support, his venue never misses a beat. Call quickgrainger.com or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.